You are listening to the Redesign Your Life podcast. I'm your host, Lynn Grogan. I am a certified life coach, and each week I am going to help you take imperfect action toward creating a fulfilling and meaningful life. Are you ready? Let's go. Hey y'all, welcome back to the Redesign Your Life podcast. It has been about a month since I have last checked in, and if you listen to some of my podcasts from June 2025, you may know that my husband and I are doing this big old experiment this summer. We left our RV behind in the West, and we're just trying out all sorts of new ways of travel to just see what we like and what we don't like. And right now I am currently recording this episode from Duluth, Minnesota, where we are pet sitting for this very sweet little pup named Apuka, who you may hear in the background at some point in this episode. I also just want to do a quick apologies. If there's any audio issues, I'm guessing there will be from this episode today. I'm not in my usual setup, in my usual controlled environment. So we're just doing what we can with what we have. So now that we're about a month into our travels, I definitely have some notes. Lessons have been learned, both good and bad. And I do plan to do a podcast episode about what we've learned. And, I'll probably do that at the end of the summer. So stay tuned for that. But I do plan to include a few nuggets from the show today, but I'll do a big recap later as I can wrap my head around what we're doing. But for today, I just want to talk about 10 helpful thoughts to think, to explore, to noodle on before you're taking a big leap or making big changes in your life, or even small changes. I think a lot of these thoughts are universal to any sort of thing we're doing in our life. And some of these will probably be obvious to you, and some may not. So for each one, I'll share a few of my thoughts on what the, main thought is. And so you can have some places to go with it if you want to noodle on it yourself. All right, ready? Here is the first one. And again, there's going to be 10. So number one is that you do not need permission to do what you want to do, to enact the changes you want to make, though you may want some people's blessings. So I think there's always this a lot of talk about, you're more evolved person if you're just I just don't care what people think. I do what I want to do that's aligned with me. But come on, we kind of do care what people think, or at least I do. But I try not to care about what everyone thinks, kind of that nebulous, oh my gosh, what will people think thought that we often have, our brains like to tell us. And I like to just try to select a few key people I care about and who may be impacted by what I do. These are the people that I would want to seek their blessing from or to get their buy-in from. But everyone else probably doesn't matter that much. So that might be something that's helpful for you. I don't need permission, but who would I want blessings from? And if you are seeking to get kind of those blessings from a few key people, be intentional about what you're seeking and why when you talk to them about what you want to do. Sometimes when we're feeling a lot of fear or doubt or worry, we're almost looking to borrow bravery from someone outside of us that we're doing the right thing. But no one can actually do that for us. We have to do that for us. They may be able to offer some reassurance or not. Sometimes we know that can go south. But if you're finding yourself wanting permission, wanting someone to give you that thumbs up, and wanting someone to tell you that it's okay to do the scary things you're doing, that is a good time to check in. So you may ask yourself, why do I want this person's approval or permission? And why? Why do I want that? And how do I cultivate that for myself? All right, so on to number 2. You don't owe anyone an explanation for what you're planning on doing unless you want to. So this is kind of similar to number 1. So I think it's pretty common when we're initiating changes in our lives that our friends, families, colleagues, perfect strangers may have questions about what we're up to. And they can totally ask, right? But it doesn't mean that you owe them an answer or that you have to justify your decisions if you don't want to, or even if you don't feel safe to. I think I have talked about this on the podcast before. There's this tool that I really like. I think it's called the Spotlight tool. I think I heard about it from Kasia Urbaniak, who maybe I also heard about it from one of my clients. But if somebody puts you on the spot and you're not sure how to answer, just simply put the spotlight back on them. So if they ask you hey, what are you doing? Why are you doing that? You might say back to them all right, well, what would you like to know about what I'm doing? People often don't actually want our manifesto for why we're doing what we're doing. At least I've found that. And I've used this question a lot in our travels, like, oh, what would you like to know? And so often when somebody asks me about like our RVing lifestyle, and I'm like, all right, well, what would you like to know about it? They're asking me something like, well, how do you get your mail? Which is totally not what I would have thought if I hadn't asked them what they wanted to know. So again, you don't owe anybody an explanation for what you're planning to do. All right, number 3, you are not a bad person for wanting to change or wanting to change things up. So it is normal to have guilty thoughts about wanting to disrupt the status quo. Our brain likes to tell us we're doing something wrong. But just because you're having those guilty thoughts, it doesn't mean you're actually doing anything wrong. You're just doing a thing. It's not good or bad. And then you're having all sorts of thoughts about it. Like, of course you are. Brains don't like change. They don't like uncertainty. And so it's going to tell you all sorts of things in order to get you back to resuming that like status quo. So just remember, you don't have to believe all the thoughts that are in your brain or be guided by them. All right, number 4, there is never a perfect time to do something, and you're never going to be 100% ready. So we're supposed to be a little bit or a lot unsure about things when we're doing something new, which makes sense, right? Like if you've never done something before, how could you possibly know like absolutely everything to be prepared for? And that doesn't mean that like you don't do research and that you don't plan. It's just being aware of like when you're over planning and when you're researching things that are pretty unnecessary. So like if you were headed to say the south of France and you've never been there before, it makes perfect sense to do research on the climate so you can pack accordingly or learn more about what to see and do there. Maybe you're picking up some French. But if you find yourself going down these really weird rabbit holes and troubleshooting for like what to do, like what do I do if I lose my shoes on the train? Who would I call? Well, that's probably about the time to cut yourself off and just move forward with your plans. You're probably ready at that point to just hit play. All right, number 5, we're at the halfway point here. It's okay to experiment. It really, really helps to frame things as an experiment. I know that for myself for this summer. When I'm telling myself that I'm just trying something or seeing what I like or don't like, it takes the pressure off of it for it to be perfect. And it lets it be okay if you really don't like something, even if somebody else does. I know for sure that has already happened this summer quite a few times. And like I mentioned in my last point about readiness, you're supposed to be unsure about some things, even if you're doing something that's like just like wildly new for you. So I'm finding it extremely helpful to do ongoing evaluations in my journal, and I'm doing this with my husband by just simply like checking in and asking like, hey, what's working? What's not working? And like, if we were going to do this again, what would we do differently? And it really just, like I said, helps take that pressure off for something to be perfect or to like it or to get it exactly right. You're just not going to an experiment, and it's by design that way. Nothing has gone wrong. All right, number 6, it is okay to ask for help and or be a little lost along the way. So it can be really helpful to just normalize some sort of messiness ahead of time and remind your sweet, sweet brain that you don't have to have it all figured out. And if you're lost, ask for help. And if you're lost, just like asking for help can be the thing that you do next. And you might find that the most fun comes from the unexpected things that you just like kind of have to figure out. So we had this happen on our way to Duluth this week. Our truck just randomly wouldn't start. It's never done that before. And it wasn't going to budge to get on this trip, and we needed to come up here. We had already committed to house sitting. So we asked for help. We asked my mother-in-law if we could borrow her car, and she said yes, thankfully. I'm so grateful to her. And it turns out that her car is super awesome for what we're doing this week. It's really zippy, it has great gas mileage, and is really helpful in places like Duluth where parking is just kind of a nightmare. So we're grateful for her help, but we did have to ask for help. You don't have to figure everything out yourself. There could be an easy solution right there waiting for you. All right, number 7, if there is a will, there's a way. It's time to get scrappy. I love being scrappy. Like, If you notice yourself limiting yourself, that's where this useful skill of being scrappy and resourceful coming in. I know it's helped me so much during the years. If you notice yourself saying oh no, I can't do this or that, I can't afford that, this isn't possible for someone like me, question those thoughts. One of the ongoing things I work on, and it's something that I coach on frequently, weekly basis, is not letting your thoughts about money or some other resource hold you back. There's often a solution for everything. It just may not be as straightforward as taking out your wallet and buying a thing or doing the most straightforward, obvious answer. So for us, like I've mentioned, we're incorporating house and pet sitting into our travels, and we're finding that we're able to go to these amazing places, have access to these very cool homes and cool cities, all for the exchange of watching someone's pet. After the membership fee to, we're using Trusted House Sitters, it's called, we don't have to pay for any of these stays that we have in these places. We're also getting scrappy by earning points on a Chase Sapphire Preferred credit card that we can use for our airfare to go to Europe next summer when we plan to go to the UK. So both of these are not the most straightforward way of doing something, but it's a scrappy way of still getting the result that you want. It's just in a different way than maybe you would expect or the easiest way to do it. So notice how your brain starts to limit you and see if you can get creative instead of immediately shooting yourself down. I think you'd be pretty surprised what you can come up with. All right, number 8, I just have 3 more here. You can always change your mind. If you have planned something and you've told everyone about it, it doesn't mean that you have to do that thing, and it doesn't mean you have to do it in the way you originally planned. This does not mean that you are flaky. It just means that you changed your mind and you have learned something new. It's also a sign that you are growing. So I actually did a podcast about this a while back, which is called, appropriately, Changing Your Mind is a Sign of Growth, Not Flakiness. I'll put that in the show notes. But really, the key thing here is you can always change your mind. What you have decided is not set in stone. You can change it. All right, number 9, past performance does not dictate future success. I know there's that quote that says, right, past performance dictates future success. I don't think that has to be the case, especially if you've learned something from your past and you're actively brainstorming ways to make things different in the future. And I'll extend on this a little bit with a little bit of a twist. Your past emotional states about doing something also doesn't equal your future emotions. So one of my fears about spending extended time abroad again is that I'll feel deeply lonely again. So when I was in my 20s, I worked in Ireland, and what I remember strongly about that time period was just feeling extremely alone and extremely lonely in a way that just felt so painful. And the same thing happened again in my 30s when I spent 5 weeks in Spain walking on the Camino de Santiago. Those past emotional states does not mean that I am automatically going to go to Europe next summer and feel lonely. I'm sure it'll be there a little bit along the way, but I also have to recognize, and this is something that you can do for yourself, that you've grown as a person. I've grown as a person. I've learned all sorts of new tools, and I know how to help myself in ways that I didn't before. So your past emotional states about something, how you felt about something in the past, does not mean that you will feel the same way in the future. And on to number 10, speaking of emotions, not being 100% happy after you've initiated some changes or you've tried a few things does not mean you've made the wrong decision. You're going to have a whole range of emotions when you initiate change. It doesn't mean that you've done anything wrong. It just means that you're having a lot of normal human emotions about something. There's this common idea that if you do something and it's a good decision, then you should feel happy. So it's very confusing when you make a decision and you kind of know it's a good decision for you, but you don't feel that way. I find it incredibly challenging when you set yourself up for that expectation because you miss out on the whole range of human emotions in the experience. And yes, you'll likely be happy at times and sad and filled with rage and filled with joy and excited and irritated and all sorts of things. It's all part of the experience, right? So if you've made a decision and you don't feel immediately happy, it doesn't mean you made the wrong decision. It just means that you made a decision and now you're having an emotion about it. All right, my friends, that's my list of 10 helpful thoughts before taking a leap or initiating any sort of change. I'm going to do a quick recap before I sign up for today. Number 1, you don't need permission for what you want to do, though you may want some blessings along the way. Number 2, you don't owe anyone an explanation for what you're planning on doing unless you want to give it. Number 3, you're not a bad person for wanting to change. Number 4, there's never a perfect time to do something, and you're never going to be 100% ready. Number 5, it's okay to experiment. Number 6, it's okay to ask for help or be a little lost along the way. Number 7, if there's a will, there's a way. It's time to get scrappy. Number 8, you can always change your mind. Number 9, past performance does not dictate future success. Number 10, not being 100% happy after you made a change does not mean you made the wrong decision. All right, I hope that helps you along the way. I expect to be back with another episode sometime in August, and then I'll resume my normal weekly podcasting when we're back in the RV in the fall. And also, if you're finding you want some additional support from a coach at this point in your life, feel free to sign up for a free coaching consultation. You can find the link in the show notes. Until next time.